Yeah, we'd like to address the false assumption at the core of the policy, of the CDC policy, that people receiving a Centrelink payment automatically lack the skills, social and moral character, and intellectual capacity to autonomously determine the course of their own lives. Whatever devices it employs, government cannot hide from the fact no evidence exists anywhere that proves the simple act of accessing a social security entitlement causes a social harm. The underlying assumption by government that it does and that people receiving payments are the primary instigators of social harm is factually incorrect and conveniently distracting the Australian public from examining two critical facts about the policy. One, that a non-elected, for-profit corporate third party is taking possession and legal ownership of social security entitlements in direct contravention of existing social security payment protection law. And two, in the act of seizing control of income, government and this corporate entity are taking over active control of people's daily lives without their consent and without having supplied any evidence of individual criminality, incapacity or social delinquency to justify that penalty. Cash limited cards and all they entail are just the spearhead of the overall suite of restrictions and limiting measures being imposed upon forced cardholders. By keeping public focus on the plastic card at all costs, government has been intentionally concealing vital policy information and are keeping the full extent of the impacts and implications of CDC rollouts from public view. We should not be engaging in vulgar debate about the flexibility and efficiency of what constitutes an updated Jim Crow policy. And that is what we feel this government is creating through the incremental expansion of CDC legislation. By devising two different sets of rights and rules for different kinds of Australians, by cherry-picking laws it wants to enforce and those it won't, the government has already created two tiers of citizenship. They are legislating segregation. Literally everything else, including the CDC trial objectives, is based on assumption, not evidence. And those subject to this policy who have done absolutely nothing wrong are being segregated, sanctioned, and are suffering solely due to their economic circumstances and perceived social class. Whatever government wants to label what they are doing, they are creating and investing in a system of permanent social and economic apartheid. The assumptions of incapacity and presumed delinquency government is relying on to justify the CDC program are not substantiated, and they have already cost lives. People, human beings, have died as a result of the impacts of this policy, and this government has been fully aware of this risk factor and CDC rollout outcome since 2017. Shortly after losing one of our own team members, I personally emailed every member of the House of Representatives and Senate a Hansard copy of 2017 Kalgoorlie public hearing testimony that reported multiple suicides and instances of self-harm that had been documented. I received nothing but automated responses. Despite having evidence presented directly to them, government has chosen over the last 5 years not to inform anyone of this policy outcome, and they've not included in their awareness of this risk factor in any of their consultation processes, on their websites or in their CDC media promotion. That forced participants have died and others are suffering debilitating and life-altering impacts, apparently unseen and unheard, as a result of decisions being made for them in this place, should matter. In the context of debate on continuance and potential expansion of this program, the lives, safety and well-being of those directly subject to these decisions should be the only thing that matters. The question remains, why has this trial of a policy that on record has caused multiple deaths, injuries, homelessness, economic losses and severe mental and physical health decline among its trial participant group been allowed to continue at all? Where is the oversight and the accountability? There is nothing in the policy that can't be achieved more efficiently and ethically and successfully by transitioning to an opt-in system. Under voluntary conditions, those that want the card can still have it. But as the Prime Minister himself said, we should not push one person down to raise another. This policy is doing that with its blanket measures. Government are demanding that the Australian community accept and applaud the forced demotion of at least 40,000 people and potentially 5 million individuals into a permanent second tier of citizenship, where they will shoulder largely unaided all the personal, social, psychological, legal and economic costs of that demotion with no benefit to themselves and at substantial risk to their lives and their families' safety. The continuing disrespect and disregard being shown for the lives and well-being of people government has already forced onto this program is not just patronising and elitist, it is unethical and it is immoral. The invisibility of forced cardholders within this process is no better exemplified than by the fact that despite facing imminent and permanent segregation from society, not one current CDC trial participant has been invited to speak here today. The CDC policy itself is a social harm, and we unequivocally say no to its creation and continuance. Services desperately need the funding that is currently being wasted, and people who do require more than just an income support payment need hope and a genuine pathway that leads to something better. This program, with its well-documented history of devastating impacts, is not that way. Thank you.